fuel tanks on the wings. The inboard pylon stationed on the wings always had the fuel tanks on it because we needed that extra gas to get up there and get back.
And you would suck the gas out of those pylons first.
Yeah.
Those
fuel tanks.
And then drop them when they were empty.
No, we normally kept them because we had to go back and get the tanker and take on more fuel to get home. And then we didn't have all that many extra tanks, and they were expensive. And
is this the 105?
You never dropped them.
Huh?
You never dropped them. P-51s in World War II.
Well, yeah, that was the other war.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is different.
In Vietnam and then 105s, you kept the tanks on.
But anyway, we went in and we were doing a bunch of low-level work, and they were really shooting machine guns at us. And I felt the airplane get hit 3 or 4 times. And, you know, just a little shake. And I knew it wasn't a big round, but it was probably 50 caliber. And so, no problem. So we did what we were going to do, and then we went back to the tanker to get fuel to go home. And when I pulled up and plugged into the tanker, and he threw the fuel at me, he said, "Oh my God." And my flight lead said, he said, "Tu, you are throwing fuel out those wing tanks. There must be 50 holes in those tanks.
Oh my God.
And it's just dumping all the fuel out the tanks." But I stayed hooked up long enough to get the internal tanks.
How'd you get home?
What?
How'd you fly home?
I got the internal tanks filled, finally.
Yeah.
I turned off the external tanks.
Okay.
Got the internal tank filled, and then I had plenty of fuel to get home. But I sure had a bunch of holes in those tanks.
When you
and
flew,
in my wings.
well, did you fly into Tok Lee, or is that where you're flying in and out of, or where were you?
Well, what about the time that you were going in to do the thing and you were flying forth and your lead said they're shooting, you were going in for your strike.
That was my initial flight.
Yeah, yeah, but that was his initial flight. Tell him about that.
We went down and the 12th Squadron, the one that was across the street from us.
How old were you?
23, 24.
Oh my gosh.
Great. Flying a plane.
But anyway, the 12th Squadron were still there, and their pilots were experienced, and so they acted as instructor pilots. And they would take a flight of 3 with an experienced instructor, and you go do your first 2 or 3 missions up north, drop bombs and whatever you're going to do, and then come back and you know, do the tankers and all that. That was your indoctrination to wartime, to combat. So our first mission was we went to Dien Bien Phu, and they had a bridge right there in town that they were just really pouring stuff across, and it was a prime target, and our job was to go in and bomb it. The North Vietnamese were kind of serious about that bridge, and we knew we were going to get shot at. But anyway, he lead briefed that we were going to climb up in the formation. We were going to get the bridge in sight, and then we're going to just take spacing out this way and behind him, you know, and get about 30-second spacing on the airplane in front of you, so you don't fly through the flak when the airplane drops the bombs. And so he went in, he called in, and as he's going down the slope, he said, "Okay, guys, heads up, they're shooting." And 2 was about to roll in, and he said, "Yeah, they're really shooting, lots of fire." But he said, "They're not shooting at me." And 3 was back here, and he said, "Well, I can see all that fire, but they're not shooting at me either." And I said, "They're shooting at me." Oh.
And you were 4?
I was 4.
You were
yeah.
4.
So anyway, I plugged my burners in. I plugged my burners because I wanted as much speed as I could get. And I rolled in, and I dropped my bombs from a pretty high altitude, probably 3,000 or 4,000 feet higher than I should have. But I just didn't want to get that close to those guns. And I was going Mach 1.2, something like that, at low level. And then the briefing was we'd go to turn to the right, we'd come back around, and we'd strafe the gun positions at the bridge. And I never did go strafe a gun after that. But anyway, they shot at me all the way around this pattern, but I'm going fast then. And as I started down the slope, you had a little dive angle, not much to shoot the gun. And the airplane was kind of vibrating a little, and I looked down and I was doing about 20 knots over red line. The red line was about 1.3 Mach,
You got shot down.
and it was,
You wouldn't be
I
here
don't
and you
know,
wouldn't-
800 and some knots, and I was going 20 or 30 knots over the red line, which is not a good thing to do.
No.
And so I hosed off a few, and I pulled the burner out and slowed down, and then got out of there and came home.
He said he had, you know, in all the stress, he hadn't realized he was still
He
in
was on the
burner.
stick.
still
You're
in
like,
burner. I really did use up my gas.